In this lesson, we're going to look at shape tools in Adobe Animate. Now, we've left this till last because the shape tools are quite complex and they're not as intuitive as most other drawing packages. So through this lesson, we're going to look at how to use the shape tools to draw, how the regular shapes interact with each other, what are primitive shapes in Adobe Animate, and how to export your final drawing as a PNG or a JPEG. And then your challenge for this lesson will be to draw a picture of Snorlax only using the shape tools. So let's have a look. So the first thing we need to do then is go to the HTML5 canvas. Now, in the last lesson, I broke my cardinal rule, so I'm going to fix that right now, and I'm going to save my work. Straight after the last lesson, my computer crashed and I lost all of my work. So let's get into better habits with this and save the work straight away. So File, Save, and let's call it Lesson 4, and Snorlax. And then hopefully that will never happen again. So here we are then, we've got this, and over on the left hand side we have our drawing tools. Now your drawing tools will look like this. So you have the rectangle, you have the oval, and you have the poly star tool. If you click and hold, you're going to have the primitive shapes for both the oval and the rectangle, but we'll come to that in just a second. Every time you click on a different shape, you will notice that the properties change ever so slightly. They're mostly the same as all the other ones. So you have your stroke, you have your fill, and then you can change your stroke size and the style and the width and all the rest of it. You also have an additional area down here where you can change the rounded edge of the rectangle, or if you've got the oval selected, you can have a start and end point, which allows you to create more complex shapes rather than just an oval, and I'll show you that in just a second. So how shapes in Adobe Animate differ from any other program is the way they interact with each other. So these are standard shapes. So you'll notice here that I've got this red border and I've got this brown inside. Now if I click and I drag over the inside of this and then go back to the black arrow tool, now if I double click, remember if I single click I won't select the red, so if I single click that will happen, I'll leave the red in place. So if I double click and then I move, you'll notice that it takes a big chunk out of the shape, and that's worth noting. So if you want to create more complex shapes, all you do is move a shape into place, double click on it, and then move it out of shape, and you can actually carve out the shape you want in many respects. This can be really useful, and sometimes it can be a bit of a bugbear. One way in which it can be a bugbear is you can't arrange these shapes. So for instance, if I drew a shape here like this, and then I had another shape with, say, a blue background, and I said, oh, actually I want the brown background to be in front. If I click on this and I right click and go to the arrange, it doesn't allow me to move it forward. So if you're trying to layer up shapes where they look like they're in front of each other, and sometimes you will, especially for the Snorlax, all of a sudden that can't happen because you start moving it around and it just takes a chunk out of it. So have a go at that. Just pause the video and just have a go at that and create yourself a nice complex shape where it carves it out, carves out two shapes on each other. So the next thing I'm going to show you is what happens when you don't have a line. So if you come into the line and go to the option that has this little line through it, and we're just going to create this blue fill. Now last time I created two objects that overlap like so, they joined to each other and then I carved it out. Well now, because they're the same color, they actually add to each other, which is it's a nice effect, and you can build up a complex shape just using this. And you can also use the oval as well, or the poly star tool if you want to kind of create different kind of things. But you will notice that they will all interact with each other and they'll stick to each other. So if you want to pause the video now and just give that a go, that'd be great. Okay, so the next thing we need to look at then is just looking at that oval shape. So if I click on the oval, and what we have to do, if we click it now, we lose our properties. So this is one of those tasks where you have to kind of choose it first. So we click on the oval, and then you can start your angle, you can end your angle, and you can change your radius. Now once you've done that, you'll notice that my oval shape is now a lot more complex. Now I believe if I click on the white arrow, no, so there's no way of getting those back by the looks of it, which is a bit of a pain. But you also have those same options in the primitive. So let me just reset these, otherwise the next time I create a shape, it will have those same values applied and it will create a horrible shape. Let's just make sure that's okay. Yep. If you want to pause the video and just try that for yourself, give it a go. Let's go to the primitive shape. Now, this is where the primitive shape kind of can come into its own, because you can create the shape using these values, and then when you come into it, those values are still there for you to edit straight away without having to worry about anything else or losing your selection. The other benefit of a primitive shape, so let's do a rectangle primitive as well, and let's just do it in a different color so you can see this, is you can layer them. So think, okay, I want this behind this. I can right click and then I can go to arrange, and then I can go to center back. So I can arrange the shapes in that way. So when you're building your picture of Snorlax, you are going to have to experiment with this. Now, the one thing I just want to say before I get going, or before you guys get going on building Snorlax, is start from the back layers and move forward, because remember, once you start layering up these, you will take chunks out and you will lose objects and things like that, and it can be a bit fiddly. But I would definitely start from the back and move forward. So start with the body, then maybe do the arms, then maybe do this inner body, then maybe do the head, then maybe do the face, then the facial features, then the feet, and so on. Another thing that you can do, so let's go back to the normal shape. Another thing you can do is, if you let's just create an oval actually, because this will make more sense. So if I create my oval, and let's just change the color to, I don't know, green. We create this big oval, and now let's create another oval with blue, and we'll try and create the same feature, this bit here, because this can be quite a task if you don't know what you're doing. If we create the other shape inside of it, just like we've got on the Snorlax, and then go to the white arrow tool and just select the outer rim, you'll notice you get all these little dots. And what you can do is you can just pull them in, just like when we use the pen tool. And the benefit of using the white one is you notice you're not carving out any points. So if I go to the black arrow tool and I move this, you'll notice that now it leaves a gaping hole there. But when you're using that white arrow tool and you're shaping it around, this is less likely to happen, which is really nice, and it allows you to work with multiple shapes. So you'll need to keep that in mind. Now, that's pretty much all I want to say about shapes. Please feel free to experiment. Please give a few of these a try, and then have a go at building your Snorlax and uploading your Snorlax as a PNG or JPEG. Remember to start from the back, and you've got a bunch of different shapes you can use here, but we'll see how your results come out. Just remember to export, then just go File, then down to the Export button, and then go across to the Export Image, and then finally make sure you save it where it says name as either a JPEG High or a PNG 24, and then press Save. Okay, so I'll see you in the next lesson.